Oh, ladies, this is a topic that I know is near and dear to many people's hearts. And I always try to find these topics because, especially when it's themes I see over and over and over again. And today I am bringing on Miss Tracy Pleschourt, and we are talking about overeating, right? Is that thing that so many of us feel like food just hops in our mouth, food just like knocks on our door and it's like, hey, girl, here's the donuts, here's the ice cream, here's whatever your comfort food is, and you just feel like you have no control over food. And today we're going to take a nice deep dive with Miss Tracy. And Tracy, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kim. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, yes, yes. So, this wasn't your first career, talking about overeating, talking about nutrition or health or anything like that. That was not your first career. You were in advertising before you took this path.
I was, yeah. So this is not the typical career path that a life and weight loss coach normally takes. But I was actually going through my own weight loss journey as I was transitioning from being an advertising executive into a life coach. And so I tend to attract more women who want to lose weight. I would say as many women who want to
Right.
lose weight as I do women who want to solve some of the bigger problems in their life. And so, I like to coach on things that I have personal experience with. So it
Right.
tends to be women who are really struggling with overeating, women who are trying to grow professionally. Those are probably the two biggies that I coach most on. And but yeah, I came out of the advertising industry loving every minute of it. I was there for almost 20 years. It's a very sexy, creative, fun industry to be in. But I knew I was being called for something more, and I really like to teach. I really like to motivate and inspire people. And so I launched Self Made You, where I get to teach people how to solve their problems fast. And I have a methodology behind it that makes a lot of sense. And it really helps people kind of release the shame
Mm,
and release the judgment around the
mm,
results or the experiences that they're having in their life, and recognize that, we behave like maybe your behavior is overeating only because you're feeling something. It's a
right.
feeling that's actually sparking that
Right.
behavior. So I
Right.
teach that methodology, and it really helps create change for people.
Right.
It really helps them overcome some of the bigger obstacles in their life and then go on to create things that they once maybe thought impossible. So it's really
Right.
exciting.
But let's go back because you said something that I think many people experience with any problem that they have. I think especially because overeating, it's the shame, especially when it's something that it's a problem.
Yeah.
And but for some reason, again, we make it about us that I just can't control myself. It's me, you know, or I have to hide it because it's something that I can't control.
Yeah. Yeah. So for that woman, and boy, have I been there, like I felt all the feels,
Mm,
shame included, lack of control
yep.
included. And it wasn't until I understood that my brain being mismanaged was what was ultimately creating those overeats. And,
Right.
had you said, whoa, 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 time out, all you need to do is manage your brain, I wouldn't have had a clue what that
Right.
meant.
Yeah.
So
You would have
that's
told me
why
to go pound sand.
yeah, exactly. So that's why I invest so much time and energy into teaching people, okay, what does it even mean to manage
Right.
your brain?
Yeah.
And it starts with an awareness around how you're actually getting the
Yeah.
result,
Yeah.
aka the overeat in the
Mm,
first place. So you're having a feeling like let's just call it an urge, right?
right.
A deep desire to eat that cookie. Why are you experiencing that urge? 100% of the time, without fail, you're only feeling something because of an unintentional thought that's running through your brain,
Right.
right? So it maybe sounds something like, I need that. I
Yeah.
deserve that. I
Mm,
want that, right? It's
mhm.
nothing like profound. It's like,
Right. There's no Shakespeare involved. It is something
no,
like, I need that Oreo right freaking now.
exactly. So that thought makes you feel desire, and your desire is on, it's like, it's an intense desire. So
Right.
urge that then has us going face down in that plate of cookies, which creates an experience of overeating.
Right.
So we have to kind of see that. Like I like to like literally write it out so it's in black and white, so
Right.
you can see how it unfolds, and you can
Exactly.
kind of create space between you and that experience. That experience isn't me. That's
Right.
just the way it's unfolding. And it's only because I have that part of my brain. It's like I like to call it your primitive part of your brain,
Right.
very reactive. That's all. We all have that part of our brain. And
Right.
what we want to learn to do is not be reactive. We want to learn how
Mhm.
to respond.
Yeah, it's funny, and as you say that, because I think so many of us, because we've trained ourselves that when this feeling happens or this event happens, this is what I do, and so it becomes a habit that if the boss tells you to work late, instead of saying no, boss, I can't work late, or taking that beat to be like, okay, I'm working late, it's okay. I'm like Oreos or coffee or whatever the thing you've trained yourself to grab when that particular event happens to you.
Yeah. And that's not your fault, because our primitive brain was actually designed to do that. Our primitive brain was designed to seek pleasure, avoid pain, and be efficient or be very habitual,
Yeah.
actually doing what it's designed to do. But if you can take a step back and you look at your result and you're like, I really do not want to keep overeating and staying in a place where I'm maintaining a weight that I don't love, or, experiencing this inability to lose weight. If you can take that step back and just be very objective and be like, yeah, this is not what I want to continue to rinse and repeat.
Right.
Okay, now you can just see it as a function of your primitive brain. You're having that thought, I need that, or I want that right now, which creates the urge, which has me diving in. That is a function of my primitive brain. It wants to seek pleasure. It
Right.
wants to avoid the pain of deprivation. And it wants to be very efficient because I've always done that. I don't even have to
Yeah.
think about it. Right. So check, check, check. Your primitive brain is functioning the way it's intended to.
Right.
That's actually good news,
Right.
right? The thing that we need to like interrupt right there is that reaction to that urge. And if you can notice it, you can see it unfolding, that's when you can respond.
Right.
Responding looks a whole heck of a lot different than reacting.
Yeah.
And
No.
that takes you tripping the trigger of what I like to call your prodigy brain. It's the other part of your brain. It's technically called the prefrontal cortex, but that's the other part of your brain that can actually reason. It can make decisions.
Right.
It is more logic versus like those knee-jerk reactions.
Right. No, and I like that. And for those of you who are listening, many of you are probably like, logically you see it. Logically, you're the breadcrumb she's dropping, you're like, yeah, I'm picking them up and I got it. But you're just like, but I'm different. I'm a special snowflake. You don't understand, Tracy. The food just hops in my mouth and just like puts me in a headlock.
Yeah. And I would say, I do understand. And I was you saying that exact same thing. And when I realized that I am not the special snowflake, that my primitive brain is operating just like everyone else's, now I can start to like kind of relieve myself of the shame.
Right.
Like, that is not me. I don't have to make that mean that I'm.
Mm,
And so I would say, kind of get over yourself and understand that this is a function of a primitive brain. We all have it. We all want to
right.
continue you have a primitive brain. Nothing has gone wrong.
Right.
It's now time to look at your result and ask yourself honestly, is this what you want to keep creating for yourself? Yes or no? It's a choice.
Yeah.
And there's no shame either way, but you can either continue to be the victim,
Right.
and I'm a special snowflake,
Right.
or you can actually make a choice and retain control. You do have control, but it takes you getting real honest with yourself.
Yes. Yes.
Asking
Yes.
yourself, do I want to continue to create this? So you kind of have to cut through kind of the BS a little bit,
Yeah.
the trauma,
Yeah.
and just get real fact-based. That's why I like to teach the basic math and science
Yeah.
of your brain, because you can't argue with that. It's evident.
No.
But a lot of people want to bring in a whole lot of drama.
Yeah. Or, because it's easier to not be in me, right? The reason why I'm overeating is because there's a feeling that I don't want to feel.
Yeah.
A feeling that it makes me feel icky. And I really like how you talked about it. And I know I was this like black or white thinking, there was no dimmer switch. And here we're asking, we there has to be a dimmer switch, because we can't shift from A to B without there being it's going to be sticky. It's going to suck.
Yeah.
You're going to probably go through some feelings that you're just like, this sucks. I don't want to feel it. But if I don't stop feeling it, I'm never going to break this like loop.
Yeah.
And what I liked about what you said is, are you familiar with Byron Katie?
Yeah. Yeah. Love her.
Love her. And she was literally the person who, it's black and white. And it really helped me think through and break up with being a victim, being a special snowflake. Like I was like, you don't know. I'm different. I was very much in that like rigid mindset. And her like 4 questions were very like, there's no, well, because no. Did you or didn't you? Okay, let's move from there. And it was very very telling that anytime I was finding myself in that victim mode, in that shame mode, in that like I can't change mode, those 4 questions just like literally slap you in the face.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Like that's what it looks like to get real honest with yourself, to take responsibility. You have to ask yourself those questions, and asking yourself those questions trips the trigger of your prodigy brain.
Right.
So you either run on autopilot with the primitive brain and continue to rinse and repeat, or you can go to those Byron Katie questions and trip the trigger of your prodigy brain, your prefrontal cortex, and you are going to get a different result. So I call this mind math because, 1 + 2 = 3.
Right.
Every single time, but you change one of those variables, so it's 1 + 3, you're getting a different result.
Right.
It is mind math, period.
Yeah.
So
no, I like that.
We're going to do something different because we want a different result. And when you just get real honest about the like math and science behind how our brain is operating, you can't argue.
No, you can't.
The effectiveness of that formula, of that methodology. It works every time, but it does require you to take responsibility and to get honest. If you want to continue to play the shame game and fall victim, then you won't make a choice. You won't even look. You won't even look at your experience to make that choice.
And as we're talking here, I think so many people, what I really liked what you said is that if I ask myself the hard questions, do I like the results I'm getting? Right. That is like, again, it's very black and white. If you like the results you're getting, rock on with your bad self.
Yeah.
But if you don't, something's got to change. And it doesn't, I think as we talk here, so many people, when you say something's got to change, they expect this like, long laundry list of like, I got to do this amount for cardio. I got to do this. I got to eat this. I got to eat that. I got to do this. And there's like, you're like, I'm exhausted just listening to all the things you think you have to do. Yeah. Where you just said it really simply. You're like, 1 + 2 = 3. If I change one number, I get a different result. So it's like, what seems the easiest thing for you?
Yeah. And I'm just going to cut to the chase, Kim, because you just like teed that up so beautifully. Everybody thinks that it's an action that needs to change.
Yeah.
And I'm here to tell you, listen up. It is not the action where you
Oh,
need to start. It is the thought. So if you're looking at my mind math formula, it is the thought that's going to
mm,
change the way you feel, that then will have you organically showing up and changing that variable
right,
from, the 1 + 2 = 3. You're going to change the 2 to a 3. So now 1 + 3 = 4. You just got a different result by changing up the variable. The
right,
variable is not the action. It's not going outside and running a mile. It's not
right.
um, fasting for 72 hours. It's not counting calories. It's not counting macros. What it is changing the way you're thinking.
Yes, yes,
I just
yes.
shortcutted it for you. So everybody who's listening, it's the easiest place to start. And I'll tell you what, it's the most effective. It will sustain your
Yeah,
result. So for all of you who are yo-yo dieters or self-proclaimed yo-yo dieters, the reason why is because what you've been doing is not sustainable. If you
no.
with your thoughts, it creates change and it's sustainable change.
Okay, like we just became best friends. Because ultimately, the one thing, people come to you and they come to me and they want the like 30 days to whatever it is that they want. And I was like, I can absolutely tell you something to do for 30 days. However, day 31, day 71,
Right.
talk to me about that. Like I don't want you to hire me anymore. I want you to get to the point where you're like, Kim, thank you so much. I got a great tool book. And I know I can come back to this over and over and over again because it's sustainable.
Yep.
Where in our society, I think they said, and it's probably by the time I've heard the statistic, it's probably less now. I think they said that we have the average attention span of like 4 seconds.
Yeah.
And I'm sure by now it's down to like 1 second. And we want that like instantaneous result. Like if I click on something on my phone and it doesn't come up in less than a fraction of a second, I'm like, what's wrong? Something's wrong with this phone. And the same thing when it comes to our health. How many years have you been overeating? And if you really sat down and thought about it, you've been an overeater probably since your teenage years.
Yeah.
And my audience we're over 40. So think about how many times when you broke up with somebody, you had a bad day at school, and someone in your life said, have a cookie, have a blah, have a blah. We've been trained. And just like you said, like we don't know how to feel that feeling. We feel it, we're like, oh, I must get something for it, versus how do I process through?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Buffering, trying to numb the feelings or trying to run from it is a normal human primitive brain
Yep.
reaction, right? So when you can see that, you can do different and you can actually put some space. You don't have to make that mean anything about you outside of the fact that you've got a primitive brain that you are reacting from. That's it. That's
Right.
it. And so it's really good to know that. And once you understand the science behind that, it is very simple. There's the primitive and there's the prodigy. You're either reacting from the primitive brain or you're responding from your prodigy brain. Once you see that and how simple it can be, now you get to like take that control back and be like,
Right.
hey, doesn't mean you're not going to have primitive brain thoughts.
For
You
sure.
actually want to have primitive brain thoughts. They're meant to keep you safe. You just don't want to be reacting from them. You don't want to be reacting, like diving face first into that plate of cookies, which would be the reaction. You want to be like, is that really true that I need or I deserve that cookie right now when my goal is to lose weight? Like
Right.
that's exactly what a prodigy brain thought sounds like. And
Yeah.
I know that sounds like, Miss Goody Two Shoes coming up with, oh, duh, that sounds like the obvious thought. But you
Yeah.
got to get honest with yourself. You've
Right.
got to ask those questions. And you got to know that the normal diving face first reaction, everybody has that. But you have to have the awareness of what to do differently. You change that one variable. That's
Right.
it.
Yeah. And I liked how you said that, because I feel like so many people, I'm gonna go twofold with this question. So many people hear that and it's like, easy for you, Tracy. Very easy for you. It's like, it's like, I don't trust myself to have whatever that food is in my house. And
Mhm.
so, again, is that a rewiring of the thought about trusting yourself? Or
Yeah.
is it, how does one gain a little bit of trust around themselves?
Yeah, I think it looks like a baby step. Like
Mm,
not you wake up tomorrow and now you all of a sudden trust yourself. Like
true.
this is like strengthening a muscle. So when you said that, I'm like, oh, I can so relate to that because I was once an over drinker.
Yeah.
And February 22nd, it will be 1 year. So we're still a ways away, but it seems like tomorrow.
No, but I mean, if for something that you used to do all the time to make
Like,
it this far,
yeah.
you're like, damn, I didn't think I could make it a day.
Yeah, I never in a million years thought I could go to bed at night without having a glass of wine first. Like I thought that
That's
I
what everyone
deserved
did.
it. I thought I needed it. Like
Yes.
it seemed perfectly normal. Well,
Yes.
one glass would lead to another glass and sometimes the whole bottle,
Right.
right?
Because you
I
opened it. Why not?
exactly. So I could look at how that mind math was playing out for me. My result that I was creating almost every single night was over drinking.
Right.
I did not trust myself to be
Hmm.
in the kitchen with bottles and bottles of unopened wine. I kept thinking, this is not going to work. And I had tried to stop over drinking many, many times.
Right.
It wasn't until I started to consider, is it possible that I might be able to just go without a glass of wine tonight?
Oh, yeah.
Versus asking myself the much harder question of, am I ever going to be able to stop over drinking or
Yes.
stop drinking completely? Like my brain does not like the answer to that. It
No,
still to this day does not like the answer to
no,
that.
because it's hard.
Yeah. And your primitive brain is seeking pleasure, avoiding pain, which seeking pleasure does not look like deprivation. And
Right.
avoiding pain does not look like, not having a glass of wine. So it's like
Right.
my brain squeals when it hears that. But if I just ask myself the question, is it possible? Do is it possible that I might be able to just tonight go without a glass of wine?
Right.
Now that I can get behind and I can
Right.
start to consider that.
Right.
See, that makes you feel different
Mm,
than I need to stop over drinking or I need to not drink ever again. Like one variable created deprivation and restriction. I
right.
changed the variable, which again is the thought, which now has me kind of curious.
Yeah.
And those two feelings, deprivation and curious, that is what leads to your behaviors. And it's an organic thing. So that's why bringing it back to that first comment when I said, it's not a list of actions.
Right.
It's not counting calories, counting macros, going out and running a mile. It's not the actions, you guys. It's the thoughts that will eventually lead to the actions. But if you want sustainable change, you've got to back it up to what is the root cause. The root cause is your thinking, and it's either coming from your primitive brain or it's coming from your prodigy brain. That's what takes the effort right there, is to trip the trigger of your prodigy brain by asking a question.
Yeah. No, this like, ladies, I'm gonna ask you to rewind about 2 minutes back because this was magic. Like we could just end right here. I could send her on her way. This was absolute magic because I took notes. I take notes. I took notes. This is what she said. She said, I picked this huge goal, right? It was like, I want to climb Everest. And her brain was like, oh, girlfriend, it's cold. We ain't going to Everest. So she's like, okay, let's go out and buy some boots. Let's just see if the boots are cute, see if I like the boots. And then I could think about buying long underwear. Then I could think about putting on a jacket. Then I could think about climbing. Like, so it was like one action led to another action, led to another action, where so many of us were like, we're climbing Everest, we're going tomorrow. And then you fail. And you're like, it was a sign. I shouldn't have done it. I'm going back to doing what I used to do. And she, laid it out for you. Like, she's like, my brain said, oh, hell no, we are not giving up alcohol. It's too hard. But I'm like, what if I had maybe she's, instead of saying having no wine tomorrow, maybe she said, I'm just going to have one glass. So it's like we have to pick something that's challenging but doable for us. And what feels challenging but doable. And what she felt challenging but doable for her was tonight, no wine. But it could have easily been tonight, just one glass.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
And worked her way towards where she is today, where we're, knocking on the door of a year where she's like, this was my jam. This is how I spent my evening. And, I had a guest talk about this as well. She's like, it's what I did. I didn't think it was anything different until you stopped. And then you're like, hang on, that was something I should have been doing a long time ago.
Yeah. I think it's fascinating how dramatic we get with our thinking. And if you notice a lot of dramatic thoughts,
oh my God, we could be Academy Award winners.
Totally. That's a function of your primitive brain. So just call it out. There it is. That's my primitive brain being all primitive on me. And once you call it out and kind of be a little playful about it, it really does start to kind of extinguish that drama.
Right.
So what I did, I knew I could make this work. I knew the mind math would work for over drinking because it worked for my overeating. It also worked for me creating a multiple six-figure business. It also worked for some relationships in my life that needed to be healed. It works for absolutely everything. Right. And I'll tell you what, the reason why is because it strips away all the damn drama.
Right. I love it. And for me, I need simple. I've done complicated. Complicated sucks. I've done too complicated for far too long. And for those of you who've listened to me for a long time, I'm all about the simple. And so many of you guys want, both myself and Tracy to give you complicated shit. I can absolutely give you complicated shit, and I can watch you spin around, chase your tail, and run into the same brick walls we ran into. Or you could just say, you know what? Maybe I should try simple.
Yeah. Yep.
But you know what? I love how you said, we talked about being, the drama queen. And so it's like Beyonce, she is an introvert, but when she goes on stage, she becomes Sasha Fierce, and Sasha Fierce can do whatever the hell she wants. And so I feel that, many of us, when you're trying to take away something that I know I need to get rid of those Oreos. I know it deep down in my heart, but all of a sudden I'm Meryl Streep and I am signing up for the Academy Award. And I think we have to recognize our Meryl Streep moments. Like, you have to just pause and be like, damn it, I'm being Meryl Streep right now. Or you decide, you could be Sasha Fierce. I think Beyonce would be okay with it. But you decide who is that, your inner drama queen, and just be like, whoa, she's coming out and she's being a diva and she wants green M&Ms only in a yellow glass. And I need to just pause for one hot second and think about how my thoughts are creating my feelings, and that feeling is turning into an action.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. And it is so simple. We want to make it hard, and it's as simple as that. And so if there is a takeaway that I want everybody to just try on in regards to a thought is it possible? Is it possible that losing weight or not overeating could actually be simple?
Oh, girl, you might as well ask for world peace in the Middle East.
Well, and so your logical brain, your prefrontal cortex is going to be like, well, what I have been doing all along sure as hell isn't working. So maybe it is possible that this could be simple, because everything that I've dove into has been pretty damn complicated, and that hasn't worked. So is it possible that maybe simple will work? Just try that on, and it gets real exciting. And then you organically start showing up behaving different, just from that variable of that thought.
Yeah, because it's like, here is where, we're both asking you to kind of release the thoughts, the millions of thoughts, feelings that you have around the actions you have to take. Where, as if we go back to Tracy, she's like, I just did one thought. I'm like, if I didn't have something tonight, what would happen?
Yeah.
And, I'm sure in your mind, you're like, gosh, whole host of things are going to happen.
Yeah.
And then you woke up the next morning, you're like, well, all that bad shit didn't happen. Huh. Maybe I'll try it again tonight to prove it was just a fluke. Last night was a fluke. Tonight, it's definitely going to go down. And then when it didn't happen for day 2, we started to build evidence. And our brains need that evidence that this new path could possibly be the path.
Right. Yep. Yep. That's why I love science and math. It's evidence-based. Our brains crave that evidence.
Yes.
So give it the evidence, start off with one step, and now all you have to do is take the next best step. That's all.
Yeah. No,
But you build evidence along the way. I love that.
right.
Yeah.
But as we are building evidence, as I talked about, this impatience, right? So it's like in my mind, I think why people gravitate towards these 30-day challenges, blah, blah, blah challenges is because there's an end date. And so when we go through a path of weight loss, and there's, of course, there are going to be days that are hard. There's going to be days that we're just going to, question everything under the sun. How do we get through that impatient part? Is it again revisiting the thoughts here, or how do we get through that? Like everyone has a sticking point.
Yeah, it is absolutely going right back to the thought, because you have a belief that, there's a finish line, right?
Yeah.
Is that belief really working for you? Like, I would argue it's probably not, because that's the old way of thinking that kept us really like grippy, kind of white knuckling, using willpower, right? You can do whatever you need to for, so long.
Right.
People tell you all day long that they've got tons of willpower, but willpower is finite.
Exactly.
Right? There is an end date. And so let's look at like weight loss a little bit more holistically. Like, let's look at this about like, how do you want to live day to day? And maybe this is just going to be the part of the process, right?
Right.
If you start to kind of back away from the belief, the thought, like that there's a finish line, and you start to consider another belief that seems reasonable, like,
right.
Could this just be part of the process where I'm feeling much better every single day? My memory is more clear, my moods are more stable, my what else? I'm sleeping better.
Right.
Like all of those things. Like if you could just kind of back away from that finite thinking,
right,
and just consider maybe this is all just part of the process.
yeah. And I like that because going back to many of us need that logical thinking, not having that like woo woo esoterical feeling where we can kind of start to say, when I tell you, when things start to get sticky, you start to get impatient, what are your thoughts around that? Write it down. And then we can kind of get, scientific. Okay, your thought is this isn't going to work. How do you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, show me the evidence. It's kind of like Law and Order. Everyone knows I'm a true crime junkie. So I'm on Law and Order. I need the evidence. Show me how this is going to work. Prove to me.
We are best friends. We just never knew it. I love all the crime shows too.
Oh my God. I love it. And the best is like, you're like, it's her. And then you're like, holy crap, it's not. And it just totally just like messes with you. I love those. But yeah, this is for me. I need that, like, I'm, working hard here and I'm not seeing any results. And you're like, well, then we have the undercover results. Like, well, are you sleeping better? How's your energy? How's your mood? Right? Because everyone wants to step on that damn scale and be down 400 pounds in 3 days.
Right.
We're not. I mean, I wish I could be Amazon Prime. I mean, that would be fabulous. However,
right.
I am.
Well, and Kim, one of the things that you just said is you're like, okay, so I'm impatient. And now how do I want to think about that?
Yeah.
If you follow the mind math formula, your thoughts create your feelings. Your feelings are what have you behaving, reacting, or responding. So instead of going, okay, I'm feeling impatient, and how do I want to think about that? I want you to reverse architect it. I'm feeling impatient because I'm thinking.
Yeah.
That really starts to solve the mind math. When you can recognize that you're only feeling something because of an unintentional thought that you're thinking, kind of reveal that, it starts to make a lot more sense. You really start to recognize, why am I showing up in this way? Why am I like throwing a cookie down my throat or opening up a bottle of wine before I even know what I'm doing?
Right. Yeah.
Because of the fact that you're feeling impatient, because you're thinking this isn't going to happen fast enough, or
Yeah.
I need it to happen faster, right? So it's getting real clear on how your mind math is playing out, how it's unfolding. I have this mind math formula and exactly how to make it work for you on my website. It's totally free. I'd highly recommend grabbing that, because it
Yeah.
changes everything when you can see how your primitive brain creates your experience. Now you don't have to make it mean anything about you. You've
Yeah.
got a brain. Now we just want to learn how to not react. We want to learn how to respond.
No, and I like that because, one of my good friends, Coach Allie, she has this thing. I'm going to say something salty, so I apologize. She has this thing. She says, "Fuck feelings," and she's like, because all of your clients are going to come to you with feelings. Like, I feel this should be this, and I feel, and she's like what you just said. Flip the feeling. The feeling makes a thought. So what does that thought do? That thought makes you want to go harder. That thought makes you think this isn't working. Where what you just said is like, okay, tell me what you're feeling. And then what are the thoughts that come up around that feeling? And let's start to diffuse that, because, you always want your client to feel heard.
Yeah.
And, you and I, we've been around a long time. Like, I've heard every feeling under the planet, and I know where it's coming from, but you don't want people to feel dismissed.
Yeah.
So it's like, Tracy, I hear you. Like, right now, you're like, it's not working. And I'm like, I'm going to ask you a question just so that we can work through this. How do you know? How do you know? And it's like, and for a lot of people, that stops them in their tracks because they don't have an answer for that. How do you know?
Yeah. 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 The basics that we teach at Self Made You, there's 4 of them. And because I have a little peanut brain and I need
Right.
frameworks to learn from, I made it real simple. It's SELF. So the S is solving the mind math. It's exactly what we've been talking about.
Right.
The E is eating foods that fuel you. You've got to understand what uniquely fuels you, not your neighbor, not your partner, what fuels you, what foods fuel you. The L is learning to collect data.
Yes.
So that you're making decisions from data, not drama. If you don't
Yes.
have data,
Ooh.
lean into drama to make your decisions. So
Oh.
learning to collect data is the L. And then the F is fasting. Fasting intermittently so that you balance out your insulin, so that you metabolically become more fit, so that you can live longer. So those are our 4 basics, but the learning to collect data,
That's huge.
it's huge. It's huge.
I mean, what you just said right there, mic drop again, and interview. Data, not drama. Because just as we were talking about, it's like, okay, it's not working. How do you know? And it's like, show me the math. Like, show me the math. If you are, consuming, the foods for you, if you're sleeping, you're not stressed, you're training, everything should be going fabulously. And if it's not, we need to talk to a doctor.
Yeah. Yep.
Because
Exactly.
clearly you are a special snowflake.
Yep. Right.
Maybe call Guinness too. I don't know. But like, clearly you are very different.
That's exactly right. Yep. Yeah. So I wear the Aura ring because I want to
Yes.
see, what my sleep does. I've got a CGM. I am like #bionic woman because I
Yes.
love looking at data.
And it's funny, I didn't like unbeknownst to me, my very first coach was very data driven. And I just thought that's how people were. I didn't, I felt asked backwards into her. So shout out to you, Jody. And I thought everyone did that. And then it was like, as I like started to kind of evolve into this industry, I realized like, we need to know these points so that I know for me, sure, I can write down my food, but it wasn't until I physically put it into an app so I could see, okay, I like this food, but it throws off my fat for the day. So what do I need to change if I want to keep this food in? So it helps me to be a little bit more logical, a little bit more strategic in my approach to food versus like, it's a good food, I'm going to eat it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So it's good food and I'm going to eat it is a dramatic thought. But if you look at the data, you're going to
Right.
make a much different decision.
Right.
So yeah, data comes in all shapes and sizes.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
don't let the word data, like I was horrible at math. So it's ironic that I have a product that
A
I call
mind
the
math.
mind.
But it's funny. I just had a doctor on, and we were talking about biochemistry, and I hated science in college. I hated science in high school because they never applied it to like real life, right? We were always doing experiments on like freaking chemicals that I'm like, who would ever have this in their kitchen? Where if we kind of related a lot of this to like actual real world, I would have perked up. I would have been like, oh, I'm interested now. Like
Yeah.
now I'm like, you could have, I have to change the education system now, but I would have done much better had it been more related to actual things you care about in life. Like I'm not a frog, so why would I dissect that?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That kind of supports why I think the mind math is so important because this is how your brain is unfolding.
Yes.
When you can make something so personal and so applicable, you'll learn. You'll
Yes.
absolutely learn. But if I just sit here and talk to you without applying your personal experience, it's probably not going to land nearly as well. So
Right.
we don't learn from being talked to. We learn
No.
application. So
Exactly.
agreed.
Especially when you're like the reptilian brain, and you're like, oh well, I'm not a reptile, so like would that have tuned me out? If you would
Yeah.
have talked about your prefrontal cortex, I'm not into science, click, right?
Yeah.
So it's like where you apply, like, well, that's what you think. Oh, I didn't know that. All right, so let me keep going. So so it's like finding the like right triggers to like draw people in so they can say, huh, there's something here for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we really cater to the lifelong learner. And I love the concept that if you're not learning, you're dying. And
Yeah.
so we all essentially are lifelong learners, you guys. Step into that.
Mm.
And that is how we keep evolving. And it's a different iteration every day. It doesn't mean
Yeah.
that tomorrow is going to be better than today. It's a different iteration. And
Right.
yes, I think most lifelong learners want to kind of optimize, and that's only possible when you're willing to look at the data to create responsibility, looking at your experience and create choice. Is this what I want to continue to create for myself?
Yeah.
Yes or
Creating
no? And
choices.
so yeah, I would wear that like cloak of being a lifelong learner proudly because I think
Yeah.
we all can be. And it really, I think, encourages us to iterate and
Mm.
optimize and not think that we have to be perfect.
Yes, 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 yes. Perfection is not required.
Yeah.
Not at all. So, Tracy, I always ask my guests one question. What is one thing that makes you feel magical?
Makes me feel magical. um Laughing.
Oh,
Like,
I'd love to laugh.
yeah, I would say I am in like this kind of magical place when I am like belly laughing, just having fun and being
Mm.
playful. If there was one place to be, it would be in that place. Like I would,
Yeah.
so
I love that. I absolutely love that. Tracy, so where can people find you on the interwebs?
well, we are on Instagram, we're on TikTok, LinkedIn, all the normal places. But I would say if you want the free stuff, you want to like really dig in and become a lifelong learner, go to our website. We've got all sorts of free resources. So that's just www.self-made and then the letter U.com. We've got the mind math, exactly how to work the mind math. We've got an awesome quiz. You can take this pop quiz that reveals your weight loss superpower. And
Ah,
a lot of people don't understand what their superpower is. And if you don't even understand that, it's very hard to leverage it to get what it is that you want. And so we have that out there. We've got all sorts of fun stuff. So yeah, that's where I'd send them.
Perfect. And everything that she talked about is going to be linked in the show notes so that you don't have to go very far to find that. Tracy, I have just absolutely loved this conversation so much. And I want to thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. And people, this is one that you're going to have to like, pull over to the side of the road or get off the Stairmaster and listen to again and take some freaking notes. Cause I know I've got like 3 pages here.
Thanks, Kim. It was so fun to be here.
Great. So magic makers, reach out to Tracy. This is some good stuff. So if you are a logical person like myself, you need this in your life, and feel free to follow her. Actually, no, don't feel free. Do follow her. I'm giving you actions. Follow her because she puts out some great stuff. All right, magic makers, I will talk to you next week.